Over my career, I've done a lot of interviews with some well-known people and some people no one's heard about before. I thought it might be fun to drag some of them out of the archives and share them here on YouTube. And this time around, we talked to a gentleman who has been nicknamed America's Mr. Clean, Don Aslettett. You may have seen him on a variety of television shows talking about just, well, how we should keep ourselves and our homes and businesses clean. The first thing I wanted to know was Don's background, where he was from originally.
Well, Dennis, I'm from southern Idaho. I was raised on a farm. Our nearest neighbor on one side was 80 miles. On the other side, two sides were 15 miles. And we basically grew up with outhouses outside and all the amenities of the desert homes in southern Idaho. And, of course, I'm almost 77, so we were back in the 40s. But I did learn one thing when I grew up. My parents were very clean, and I cleaned the chicken coops and I cleaned the corrals. And I just found out that the combines and the blades and the plow, everything was clean. Dennis, everything worked better when it was clean. And I guess I just grew up liking to clean. And so I did the yard, and we kept the corrals and everything spiffy. And so when I went away to college, I'd been taught to work on my own, to support myself. We didn't have scholarships in those days. And so I got to college, and I thought, man, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been a farmer. So I put an ad in the paper that says, Don Aslettett, professional cleaner. I'd never even made my bed before. And the first call I got, this lady calls, Mr. Aslettett, do you clean carpets? And I go, yes, I do, ma'am. Well, I'd never seen a carpet. We had outhouses when I left. And so I went down to this Sherwin-Williams store and rented a carpet machine, and remembered on one thing on wash day, my mom used boiling hot water, and I used 40 gallons of boiling hot water on that lady's carpet. It was in North 15th on the real high end of town, and it was a wool carpet. Dennis just shrunk that baby away from all like 5 inches. The thing that really impressed me, it moved the grand piano, the whole grand piano kind of across the room. 3 or 4 weeks later, even worse than that, I was out. I walked about. I didn't have a car, so I walked about 4 miles carrying a ladder and a bucket, and went out to a place, and I was scrubbing in a little room, and there was no ventilation. I had no idea what kind of cleaner to use. I'm a dumb college kid, 18-year-old college kid, and I was using lacquer thinner and ammonia straight. If it beats the boogers off your hand and the hair of your nostrils, it's good stuff. And so.
It's a wonder you're alive right now.
Yeah, and the lady come running out. Well, that's the whole story. Came running out of the room. My bird's dead. And their canary was laying at the bottom of the cage, just dead on a doornail. And my fumes, my ammonia, and the lacquer fumes had killed her bird. Well, my reputation spread, Dennis, and basically I hired 1, 2, 20, 30, 100 college students. And it took me 10 years to get through college, but I worked my way through college cleaning homes and supermarkets and stations and banks and telephone buildings. And then I graduated, knew more about cleaning toilets than I did dissecting frogs, so I stayed in the business. I've been in the business almost 60 years, full-time as a professional cleaner. And our company is big. We're in most of the states, and basically that's what I do for a living. I'm the Urinal Colonel, and my wife's the latrine queen.
Well, now, Don, you mentioned something about a clean farm. I grew up very near one of the enclaves of Amish country in the U.S. in southern Indiana. And when I was with the USDA, I went up into Pennsylvania Dutch country on an animal disease, an avian influenza outbreak. And it suddenly just really impressed me that compared to a lot of the farms I had gone to, the Amish farms were squeaky clean. We're talking about a farm here, and the avian influenza came last to those Amish properties, and that gave me a whole different sense about farm cleanliness.
Well, you bottom line that out. This cleanliness, 40% of all cleaning problems and all cleaning time, Dennis, is junk, litter, and clutter. The biggest problem in society is excess. We're talking about in you, on you, and around you. There's 3 too muches. And the Amish, because they don't have much stuff, it's easier to look clean. I guess I saw sloppiness as an enemy, and I guess that's what you saw. When you have too much, and when I say on you, obesity is a big problem around us. We've just got cars and too much TV and too much shoes and purses and watches. I mean, just everything. And then around us. And in our minds, we got the jealousies and the lust and whatever's in the minds stuff. So really, the too much is what I guess I stayed in the business, and I really fight, and I guess that's why I'm still in the business. But you're right, the Amish, 40% of all the cleaning stuff is just stuff, and Amish run with minimal things.
Well, something else about the whole aspect of having too much is within the last 10 years, like a lot of people in their 60s in radio, my career fell apart. Radio incredibly downsized. And at the time it happened, I was living in Las Vegas, and I had a 15 by 15 storage unit full of every piece of recording tape that I would never listen to again. And I had to throw all of that away, and it was a gut-wrenching experience because now I've downsized to what you call an efficiency apartment. I mean, it's basically one room, separate kitchen, bath. But as I was throwing that stuff away, I said to myself, first of all, did I know I had the stuff? And secondarily, somebody once asked me, if the place caught on fire, what would you take with you? And I certainly wouldn't have taken what was in that storage unit.
Well, that's the, people ask me what is junk, and you go, how long you've had it, how much it cost, who gave it to you, almost is irrelevant. There's one question we'd learn to ask ourselves: does this enhance my life, or will it, or other lives? If it will, generally, a teddy bear with 2 ears missing, the cat peed on the left leg, and the stuffing's falling out of the ear. If the kids love it, it's not junk, but a big extra $40,000 pickup in your driveway you don't need could be a big piece of junk. So really,
well, and the other thing too, that storage unit not only wasn't necessary, it was costing me $85 a month.
Some insurance guys tell me that the people can't remember half what's in their storage unit when they have there's a fire, a loss, or a flood on storage units. Insurance people said people have no idea what was in there. Well, I've forgotten. So, you do outgrow things. You outgrow that electric train and the Barbie dolls and all that stuff, and you got to let it go. That's where most cleaning time is consumed. I've done 6 books on clutter. One of them called Clutter's Last Stand, which is my favorite. And basically, people find out when they throw out their stuff and dejunk their house, it's the biggest single life changer that they can possibly do. And basically, you say, if I don't love it, I can't love you back. And, the tapes had value when you stored them, and you might have used them, but pretty soon they outgrow their usefulness and they don't enhance your life. And you got to let them go so you can live.
Well, and the other thing, too, for the first time in my life, and you are talking to somebody, and we talked about this the first time I interviewed you, you're talking to somebody who grew up as one of the most disorganized, sloppiest people on the North American continent. And now that I have so incredibly downsized, I know where every pencil eraser is, and Don, it kind of scares me.
Well, you live a saner life. You live a lot more efficient life when you do that. I have in my Museum of Clean, we can talk about that a little later, but in the Museum of Clean, I have a garage door shut, and people line up in front of it, and I push a button. I give them 1 minute to name what they have in that garage, and I spent a lot of money to do it, but I picked that. After years and years, I picked everything, from the weed chopper to the deer head to the bottles of the refrigerators to the propane tanks to the old picture frame, saws, tools, and golf clubs. What's in an average garage? And it is just absolutely amazing. 1 out of every 10 say, my garage looks perfect. I don't have one of those, but you always get the junkers. The people, it looks like home. I can't. My cars haven't been in my garage, and they got a 3-car garage, and they're full of So we start doing it, and then we have a whole shelf full of things that people have won at junk contests. When I do presentations, we have junk contests, and people really like that. I got Hauser shells from Avalanche Control in Snowbird, Utah, and Spotted Owl Helper, and I got all sorts of armadillo purses with their little zippers in their bellies, and I just have a whole bunch of junk stuff like that. And people, it's just amazing how all the junkers, how there's almost a society of them. They just, tears come in their eyes. Oh, I got 3 of those, But junk and clutter still is and excess is the number one problem in society. There's just too much traffic. There's just too much everything. And we get more. And you're right. It might scare you, but your life efficiency has really improved, right? To know where every
Absolutely. If I have to go someplace, I now know where my car keys are. You're talking about garages. They say that odors can bring back incredible memories. There's a specific odor sometimes, and maybe odor's not the right word, in a garage. And I remember going into somebody's garage a couple of years ago, and for a split second, I was 10 years old again in my Uncle Leo's garage in Washington, D.C. And I don't know what it was, whether it was the motor oil or what. But, I don't know about you, but addicts kind of get lost. I think people use the garage quite often, as you said, for everything else but what it was built for.
The cars are outside. If you look back at the homes that were built in the pre-50s, hardly any home had a garage built on it unless you were rich. In the 50s, they started putting carports. In the 60s, 1-car garages, 70s, 2-car garages, 80s, 90s, 3-car. it's not uncommon to have 4-car garages in just plain ordinary towns out through Idaho or Utah or Wyoming. Absolutely unbelievable. You know, those smells are interesting. I can walk in a shoe shop, shoe repair shop, the smell of the leather and everything else. It takes me back to when I was about 8 years old, or drive by a hayfield.
Yes.
You know, and all that, the nostalgia triggers nostalgia.
Well, I haven't lived in a house, I should say, since I left my home in Indiana. I've always lived in an apartment. But when I go past where they're mowing the grass,
yes,
I get homesick. I mean, I used to hate mowing the grass. At least I told my dad I did. But darn it, I miss it now.
Well, it's the smell. It's the smell of Clorox or ammonia when you clean, too. People are reminded. People think things are clean if it smells clean, even if it's masking. You know,
so in other words, you think a lot of people, as you say, mask the odor almost as if we're using perfume rather than cleaning properly.
Yeah. When I go in a restroom that smells like pine trees and cherry balls, man, I go out of there really careful, because if something's really clean, like clothes or hands or people, you don't need to pile deodorant or shaving lotion or anything on. So the more it smells like that, the more timid I am about touching anything.
Don, let's talk about the health aspects of cleaning here. We all have friends who have real allergy problems. And I know that during that time I lived in Las Vegas, I constantly heard about how the highway department had planted oleander down the median of Interstate 15, not realizing how many people are allergic to oleander, and the little things would blow all over the city. How much of an issue in cleaning is allergy prevention, or cutting down on people's problems with allergies?
Well, you know, the new buildings, just like the one I built a LEED or a platinum building I built here, and the air circulation is screening out. We've reduced that a lot. But, you know, allergies I've got friends that they can walk in a room where a cat has been a week ago, and their eyes, in minutes, their eyes red up and tear and sniff and snort. So, you can't touch that. The biggest thing I have the length of life expectancy is an interesting thing. Not too many years ago, life expectancy was 39 years for women and 38 years for men, or something like that. Today, it's 78 years for women and about 77 for men. And I really wonder, as I've got a display in my museum where I have some rats, and I have an old New English city built with, chimney sweeps and all that stuff. And I got thinking that more people, I've got statistics on this, but more people died from disease, maybe not allergy as much, but disease-related, than wars and starvation put together. Millions and millions of people died from sanitation. So when you say people are living longer, is it surgery? Is it better diets? And I really wonder if this could be a study. I wish somebody would do it on how much being clean, cleaner teeth, how healthy your teeth are, affects your heart attacks now and all that. I just wonder, the carryover of clean has got to be just unbelievable. Because how you clean basically is how you behave and how long you live, in a sense. So,
well, I heard a really interesting statistic one time. I was doing a radio show with the head historian of the Mormon Church, talking about people who migrated to the West Coast. And the two things I remember most, I said, what was it like to ride in a wagon from St. Joseph, Missouri to Salt Lake City? He said, well, ask that of the old people and the children. The adults walked. And I just paused there, and I said, he said, yes, we walked west. And then he started talking about why people died. It wasn't Indian attacks. It wasn't injuries. It was illness. And a lot of that illness was caused by an allied area of cleanliness, and that was their inability to preserve food properly. And you also wonder what came up along the way from all of this, because they weren't used to it out east or back in Europe. So there had to be a cleanliness factor there.
Well, there was, and the exercise of it, and of course the longevity. There was an Associated Press article came out about 3 years ago. I clipped it, that the average Mormon high priest, the old guy in the church there, lives to be 88 years, not 78 years, because they got this code of eat wheat and don't smoke and don't drink and get a lot of exercise and keep your weight down. When you have that kind of, but that was known, 200 years ago. But it's a shame, even though now we know that smoking and heavy drinking and obesity is killing people off young. We're plagued with it right now in our society. So,
and are you a non-smoker?
Oh, I've never, I lived on a farm. I've never sniffed alcohol, coffee, or tobacco, or pop, or
Yeah, my addiction is soft drinks, but I thank God that I never smoked or drank or did drugs. I went in for a complete physical recently when I turned 65, and I was very happy. Every time they said, "Do you smoke?" I would almost shout, "No!" Because now there's an area, just in your cleaning and you're dealing with that, just how pervasive is cigarette smoke and nicotine?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I used to clean places, not bars necessarily, but where people had meetings and there was a lot of smoking, and we'd wash the ceilings down, and I had a machine that would keep the stuff we took off the wall, and I had bottles of pure nicotine. We captured it off the walls. It went in, it was screened in the machines. It was really interesting. It was just total yellow. You thought, wonder what the lungs were like that, and what, so we kept that. But the cleanup, probably that's one reason I never smoked or drank or even coffee, is when you clean it up, when you clean spills up, food stuff up, clean up after smokers and after coffee drinkers and after people who make nests. Huge load on society, a huge load on the environment, and the smoking in a building caused tons of time to clean it, and burns in the carpet and burns on the floor and in the desk. And boy, when they got smoking out of buildings, our cost of cleaning buildings, Dennis, this is really interesting. I never thought of this before until you mentioned it, but our cost to clean buildings, we're cleaning buildings for costs right now that we did for 25 years ago. And that's just absolutely amazing. Computers have helped that, better cleaners have helped that, environmental things, better carpet construction. But also we're controlling, there's no smoking in buildings anymore. And boy, you take that out because the smoke stuck to the glass, and it was in the waste baskets and everything else. So that's really interesting. I never thought of that before.
Well, I was never really a barfly, but when I did live in Washington, D.C. in my 30s and 40s, I would go out with friends occasionally, and this was in the disco era with the loud music. And I remember two things. You would walk into a bar, and it would be like London pea soup fog, and you would just see shafts of light being generated by the disco ball.
Yes.
And then I would go home and not only have to take a shower, I would have to put my clothes in another room so I wouldn't smell them as I slept. I mean, it was horrible, and we took that for granted. You watch television from the 50s or 60s, you listen to radio from the 40s, smoking was the norm for most people.
Well, I've clocked 4 million miles in my writing books and traveling, and when I used to fly with the early airlines, we had 3 non-smoking seats in the front, but if you got right behind somebody smoking, and now we can't even comprehend. Well, we can't comprehend how we can live without computers. We can't comprehend how we can live without cell phones. But I can't even comprehend of people smoking on airplanes.
Well, engineers say that the stopping of smoking on airplanes had one negative effect. They used to be able to see cracks in the fuselage by little scums of yellow on the outside. No, true. If there were hairline cracks, because during the compression and decompression of the aircraft, the nicotine would leach out in places. So now they don't have that monitor. But you're right, it was stupid. You'd be in non-smoking, and the guy behind you was in smoking. Made no sense at all. Now, Don, let's go into some other areas here I want to talk about. You mentioned buildings. We've all heard of Legionnaire's disease, which got into the air conditioning system. I think it first affected a group of American Legion members meeting for a convention in Philadelphia. It crops up now and then. From what you understand, is something like that preventable? Is it because they don't clean the filters in the air-moving system, or is that one thing that's kind of over and above the cleanliness factor?
Well, I think, Dennis, the building gets blamed for a lot of problems. I help design buildings. I help design to make them maintenance-free. And the buildings, it's like cleaners. The cleaners have gotten so safe. They used to have a lot of butyl. You saw a lot of heavy-duty stuff of odors and stuff that caused allergies or caused a lot of problems. But companies, because of lawsuits and litigation and everything's going on, most all cleaners are green now, and most all cleaners are safe. And the filter systems in buildings now are so efficient, and in vacuum cleaners, unbelievable in the last 10 years, because, this green scare has gone up, and people are a lot more conscious of it. I think a lot of this stuff has to come from another source and not from buildings, because we have how we sweep, we vacuum, we capture dust, we keep it out. Some of these buildings are almost totally dust free. You can dust once a month. You can't pick up hardly a booger of grease anywhere. And I just see the buildings now have gotten so sophisticated, and so clean, and the carpet construction now is of the nylon and the different kind of carpets are done so well, and the vacuums are so good. I mean, they're all better than they were. And before, they vacuum bags leaked and everything. We do building audits on cleanliness of buildings, and we measure the air and we measure how much stuff's coming out of the carpet and everything, and it's amazing. So I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I know in my museum I am dedicating the whole fourth floor, 8,000 square foot, to clean as it relates to health. We got all the cleaning vacuums, we got all the cleaning machines and all the cleaning stories and everything in this big museum. But the fourth floor is being built for clean teeth. We're talking about clean. We talk about clean habits, clean language. We're talking about clean clothes, clean food, and I don't know. I don't know how clean. I'm not a food person either, but and washing your hands. You should wash your hands for 2 minutes. The average hand person washes them for 8 seconds probably, and so I think a lot of that's transmitted outside of touch points. For example, when somebody's sick and snorting around, coughing in their hand, blowing their nose and everything, the first thing to do is go to the refrigerator to get a glass or to get the Pepto-Bismol or get everything. Well, they touch the refrigerator door. Hardly anybody ever cleans the handle of the refrigerator door or the doorknobs or the back of the church pews or the chairs. And so the transfer of any of this unhealthy disease, I think more of it comes outside of a building. I guess I have a lot of faith in how we clean buildings now, because when we clean bathrooms, I mean, they're so thoroughly clean that people go in behind us with those lights. What do you call those black
ultraviolet lights?
Yeah, black lights. And if there's any pee or any handprint or anything on the wall, it lights up yellow, and then you get written up. So you learn to clean and disinfect. Probably bathrooms are more cleaner. The doorknob is probably the worst place in your house. It's never cleaned. I mean, people go in the bathroom, set their purse on the floor next to the toilet, and then you see the purse on the table in the restaurant, and you go, oh, man.
Boy, I never thought about that.
Well, you see all that type of stuff. But as far as buildings goes, I clean hundreds of millions of square foot every night. We clean big plants and hospitals and big places. And we have our equipment, it's very competitive. When I first started my business in 55 at 60, I was really the head guy in the whole country with ideas and innovation. And now there's just really some good companies out there. The computers, there was one magazine or one little bulletin that came out in the 50s on cleaning, professional cleaning. Now there's probably 11 or 12 really good ones that come out every month that keep you up on all the latest safety, all the latest cleaning, all the latest coatings, all the latest everything. And so we're educated as far as cleanliness and cleaning now more than we've ever been.
John, something really bothers me, and I may lose listeners by saying this, but I just don't like dogs. I like cats, but I don't like dogs. And increasingly, where I live here in California, people are buying dogs. Now, there are strict rules in California on having a dog in a restaurant unless it's a service dog, but that doesn't apply to the outdoor patios. What are your feelings about animals and restaurants?
Well, I was raised on a ranch where we were taught that the horses and the cows, we treat our animals really good. And we had good dogs and the cats, but when I was 19, somebody visited our house, or 18, and they brought their dog, and I ran screaming to the living room, Dad, there's a dog in here, there's a dog in the house. Having a dog come in your house was like a horse or a pig or something else come in your house. Animals were outside, and so I got older, and my kids and other people started dogging up, and everything. So I ended up, my fourth book ended up to be a book called Pet Cleanup Made Easy. It's the only book I didn't write from scratch. I had a lot to do with it with my cleaning knowledge, but I got 7 of the best people on pets. So pet hair and pet allergies, talk about allergies and talk about other things, they come from animals. So I've never had animals in the house. I think it's inhumane to have animals in the house. The poor cats and poor dogs live in a house. They weren't made to live in a house. They were made to be out where they can run and leap and somersault and climb trees and everything else. So I'm kind of an outside. So basically what I say is have good mats on your doors inside and out, so if the pets come in or out, they lay on the mats, and you keep the hair and the stuff outside. So, I love dogs, but I love them outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Don, is it possible to over-clean?
Well, I'll answer that on your car. Is it possible to overwash your car? The minute you wash your car, you drive out on the road, it really needs washing the time you get home again.
Yeah.
Do you do it once a week, or do you do it every? It's like taking a bath. We used to take a bath Saturday night, and that was it. And now I notice almost everybody I know shower every day. And look at the waste of water and the waste of clothes. Somebody told me the other day we wash. I think you said that in our conversation. We wash. I was you. You said, trouble. We wash clean clothes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I had that in my notes of
all
our conversation a while ago. And
just thrown things back into the washer.
you've worn them once, but yeah, we wore things in weeks, and no, really, if you
Yeah, I know.
we overclean. I mean, so nobody's in your living room. Why do you vacuum every week? You vacuum once a month. If nobody's in, you got a good furnace, got everything. You can vacuum once a week or once a month. But if you got 8 kids running around and you allow food all over and 30 dogs leaping and cats jumping on your furniture, you might have to vacuum every day. So cleaning is a standard and not a frequency. And otherwise keep your windows clean. If your front windows, some people, the little kids get up and one day the glass doors in your house look like beautiful fingerprints, and that's good. It's better to be, if there are more fingerprints on the door, there'd be less on the police blotters probably. So that's a good thing. But we do overclean, and you should be clean enough to keep the germs down. But generally, you clean to how many people are there. I do a lot of stuff for schools, and you have some people that only have 120 people in this whole big school room or schoolhouse in some little town of Skagway, Alaska or something. And then you go in someplace else in the same size school, there's 450. Well, the 450, you naturally have more waste, you have more toilet paper used, you have more accidents, more throw up, you take the same size of square footage, you will actually take 4 times as long to clean it and 4 times as much money. So it's load, it's house, and how, I built a maintenance-free house in Hawaii, and it's how your place is designed too. We can design a lot of cleaning out, by eliminating a lot of doors and wall hanging and camouflaging and using better quality stuff and lights and everything else. So you can design a lot of cleaning out, and you can also avoid a lot of it just by prevention, by good vacuum bags, by good doormats inside and outside, and by getting rid of your junk.
Yeah, Don, you mentioned the word furnace a moment ago. My dad was a plumbing and heating contractor for Montgomery Ward, and I can remember in my childhood I heard him lecture people about furnace filters on a regular basis. People would call up, he would have installed a furnace the year before, and the next winter comes and there's no hot air. One of 2 things had happened. They either found a register that didn't have any air coming out of it and put a carpet over it, not knowing that was the intake where the furnace breathed. And my dad used to say, now, put your hand over your mouth and nose and try to breathe. That's what you've done to your furnace. But we would pull furnace filters out of furnaces that were hard as a rock. And furnace filters are cheap. And that's one of the legacies my dad left me, is that if you have something with a filter in it, don't wait for the unit to stop working. Change the filters on a regular basis based upon the local air and how dirty they get.
Good counsel. The other way to think of that is every time you remember that thing in your dryer that catches a lint, you got that little lint catcher in your dryer you pull out.
Yeah, and you have to clean it every time.
And boy, sometimes the other day I pulled mine out and it was so blanketed no air could get through there. I said, man, I just did that a week ago. But again, we have better carpets, we have better vacuums, and there's less, and the yards are kept better. We're not living in dust bowls. We have a different, but changing filter is just logical, whether it's in your gas filter in your motor in your car, the filter in your lawnmower, the filter in your vacuum, or the filter in your furnace, or your air conditionings. We have a lot of people don't have furnaces now. They have electric heat, or they have stuff, but they still have air circulation. Filters, basic filters, just trap the dirt or track the stuff in the air and hold it out. And the filters are good. That's another thing that's been invented. We've really, I remember I took a vacuum bag on national TV once, and the guy said, how does air get through that? And I filled it full of water. I was in Los Angeles someplace, one of the big shows, KGO or someplace, and I filled that vacuum bag with water and held it up, and not a bit leaked. And yet all the air to vacuum your carpet goes in it, so the HEPA filters, the filters are getting just phenomenal. So I really encourage people to keep up with the new stuff, but buy quality, and their vacuum cleaners. Vacuum cleaners, you're going to think of vacuums as an appliance. You're going to pay the $400 or $500 and get really good units, and not the throwaway ones that are $150, that the cyclone things that work a while and then all of a sudden they don't, and you park them. And
you have looked at dirt over the decades. Is there more trash now? I mean, I go out to the dumpster and I see all the empty pizza boxes, and here I live alone and I take the trash out every day. At least McDonald's isn't using styrofoam anymore. I mean, that stuff's going to be out in the ocean 10,000 years from now. What about that? Are we drowning in our own debris?
Dennis, you've hit the prime thing of this whole conversation. In my museum, I built a 10, 12-foot high upside-down trash can. It's a beautiful thing, and I have the amount of trash that we generate. I taught a college class one summer on facility maintenance. I had about 30, had 3 homeowners, but had heads of things. And the EPA, now there's a study that's out on the internet, I guess it makes it true, says we average 4.5 pounds of trash a day we generate individually. And I said, no way, 4 pound trash a day, 30 pounds a week, 130 pounds, no way. So I had my class, there's 32 in the class, and these are good people. I had them bringing their trash, and I brought mine from Friday noon to noon Monday, over that. I was absolutely appalled. All the stuff you named, the packaging we have and things now with the plastic on packaging, you throw away a glass pickle jar, you can't recycle it, or you start looking at what you throw in, and pop cans and the bottled water and the stuff a day, and the cups and the stuff. It's absolutely unbelievable. Even when we say we recycle, I have a recycle center to teach us kids in a museum of clean, and even that. But we generate so much more trash. When we were on the ranch, every 3 weeks we take 1 gunny sack of empty cans. But everything we had, the meat was wrapped. We used the stuff. The garden, the things were bottled. We reused the bottle. We had no trash. We had a family of 7, 5 kids and 2 adults, and Grandpa's a lot of. We had no trash. But now, I can't believe what I generate in a day and what we throw away. I just moved my granddaughter, she's 14. I took 2 boxes of purses. She's 14. They just kept buying them. And shoes. We have shoes, 2 for winters that are running out into the creek. And we have so much clothes in our clothes closets that we don't need hangers. Stuff's just suspended by compression, as it goes.
I know when I went away to college, and I had grown up in rural Indiana, my college roommate was an extremely well-dressed, dapper-looking kid from Indianapolis. And he must have had 35 blazers. And I remember Jimmy asking me, can I use part of your part of the closet? Okay. I probably had 3 shirts. That was about it. But I'm just picturing the dumpster down here and thinking of that. One of the great stories I saw on CNN years ago was a guy, I think he was a college professor, and he had a multi-room apartment, and one room had been a den, but he decided not to use it anymore. So he put a mail slot in the door, and starting on January 1st, he put every piece of junk mail into that room. And they showed him opening it up on New Year's Eve, 365 days later, and it was like Fibber McGee's closet. Now, this is one person's trash just because of mail he got from companies, wanting to give him $10 off on a car wash.
I did a lot of interviews with my clutter books, and I did an interview with Reader's Digest once, and I said the average person goes through 300 sheets of paper a day, or pages a day. And so they said, oh, there's no way, she said. I said, I give her a list. I said, catalogs, bills. I just give her a list of the newspapers, and I give her a list of all the paper stuff. She says, call me back in an hour. She called back and said, I cannot believe it. I go through 500 a day. And when you actually start listing the phone book and the TV guides and the amount of paper, we say we're a paperless society. But, the paper's big, but too many clothes. Let's go back to that a minute. Too many clothes. I'm really extremist. Maybe that people all offend people on this, but like you do just did on the dogs. We probably lost 10 million listeners because of your opinion of dogs, but we'll get through that. But I have the clothes. I've never. Now listen to this. I'm 77 almost, and I've done 6,000 TV radio shows. I've performed a lot of marriages. I've spoken at numerous funerals and done a lot of presentations. I've never owned. I have 3 suits, 2 pair of shoes. I've never owned a sport coat of any kind in my life. I've never owned a sport coat. I went to get a physical, and they said, would you wear shorts? And I go, I don't own any shorts. And they go, you're kidding me. Well, wear some Nikes. I had to run on a treadmill. I said, I don't own any Nikes. I got irrigating boots and 2 pair of Oxfords, work boots. Well, wear a sports shirt. I didn't own a sports shirt because, I either have my work clothes on or my suits, and stuff. And
boy, you're not Mr. Casual, are you?
No, boy, and I'm really a scab and dress, but I get along really good. But, my whole clothes closet is about 3 feet, and that's it. And I live rich. And so I'm not a minimalist. I'm just saying let's don't waste, because we spend our time, just like you say, you can find your car keys. There's a real story there that when you live with less, you live more. And people are finding that out. But boy, I'll tell you, we're in a society that buys more. I did a speaking thing at a bank in Southern California, and the guy took me out to dinner, and the banker says, "What's wrong with the world?" And I started giving him, well, payroll. No, he says, "What's wrong with society?" And I said, the problem is we have everything, or he said, I started giving him stuff, and he says, no, the problem is we have everything. And he stood up and went, how many TVs do you have? He started walking around just to people in restaurants, Guy had a lot of nerve. How many cars do you have? 3. How many TVs? We have 4. How many pairs of shoes? Well, I have 21. And these were truck drivers, janitors, waitresses, executives, whoever was in the restaurant. It was just, it was appalling what we own that we don't need or we don't use. Just like the guy could lock up the room and throw his mail in there. The mail's a huge thing, but we're talking about food we waste. We overeat. It's in the bottled water and all this stuff is.
Boy, my grandmother couldn't understand bottled water. I remember one time we were in a grocery, and in front of us was a rather well-dressed lady who had 3 cases of bottled water, and my grandmother, in a rather loud voice, turned to me and said, boy, you would think a woman that wealthy could afford a faucet at home. and I have never purchased bottled water.
Well,
maybe that's silly, but of course I drink so many soft drinks. But here's a great example of merchandising by Madison Avenue. I remember in Ken Burns' wonderful documentary on the history of radio that was narrated by Jason Robards, which every radio student should watch. The line was, radio enlightened us, educated us, and taught us to buy things we never knew we needed. And so that's advertising. That's why we have 21 pairs of shoes.
Well, and every time I stay in a motel, I was in a Marriott recently or a Sheraton, bottled water was $4.50. A bottle of water.
Now, what's the markup on that?
Well, I don't know. The pure orange juice I had at the restaurant was $1.75 for a big glass of fresh squeezed orange juice was $1.75. For a drink of water. Of course, we live out on the farm where we got these deep water wells and ice cold water coming out of the ground, and I don't understand that, but it's a plastic bottle you end up with, and it's a big problem in our society, how much oil it takes to make a plastic bottle.
Well, I wish I could get the ear of the CEO of McDonald's or Burger King or Taco Bell and say, look, give me $10,000 because I can tell you how to save a ton of money. I don't need a 2-foot-long receipt. I don't understand it. I have gone to fast food places where the receipt looks like one of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's ridiculous. Just imagine if they would cut those receipts in half, how much paper nationwide, worldwide, those chains would save in 1 year.
Oh, I can't believe that. And also, somebody told me the other day, Toby told me the other day, she went on strike and not use straws. You ever think about straws? There's always a waste that goes on the floor the janitors have to pick up. So we can get along in life without straws, but everybody has that. And I never thought of that. I thought I was a minimalist, but there's a lot of people that if people stay home more too. We're in a society of being entertained, and we have the beautiful radio, TV, beautiful homes, and beautiful things, but people have to go someplace. Sometimes you in neighborhoods, beautiful Saturday, and isn't one person the whole neighborhood home. You go, where do you want to go? You got this beautiful home, you got this beautiful lawn to lay on, and a nice basketball court up at your garage, and you got. It's 50-inch TV. You can see any ball game or any symphony in the whole world right in your own house. Yeah, we travel. We burn a lot of oil. And I'm another thing. I'm an old car driver. I think that every car these days will go 500,000 miles. I don't know why anybody would trade a good car in at 200,000 miles. I mean, man, those things are just functioning, man. You just get them broke in. But I found that I'm in the minority here. So,
well, I knock on wood. I have the least expensive, and I'm not cutting down Ford, but a lot of people joke about what the letters in Ford mean, that I have the least expensive Ford made in 1999. I bought it used. It has 250,000 miles on it. And I knock on wood, it still works, and I have no desire to trade it off, Don, because I own it. I'm not making payments on it.
My last company car, of course, we had my fleet with my company. We had 600-some vehicles. But I had an Oldsmobile in 88, I think about 84, and I had 350,000 miles on it. It ran just perfect. I could park at the airport. I never have to lock it. My grandkids can burp on it. The birds can poop on it. I mean, it was a good car. But my company says, for a chairman of the board, you hurt the image of our company and our company by driving because they all wanted newer cars. All those cars go 500,000 miles. But I bought I got a old 2000 Buick at Park Avenue and paid $10,000 for it. And that thing has got about 200,000 on it, just broken in good. But I go to drive to Vegas, 32.5 miles per gallon to drive from Bogota to Las Vegas. I can go on one tank.
Well, you know what young kids don't realize, and that is before, and thank God they did it, but before pollution controls and the catalytic converter, it was not uncommon for even small six-cylinder cars to get 38, 40 miles the gallon. How much is gas up there?
This morning it was $3.69.
You are so lucky. It's $4.40 here.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No, and I drove over to Phoenix last weekend, and it was $3.70.
Well, the best thing is our council I have in my
moved to Phoenix. No,
in my museum I have a big council to stay home. That's what's the secret of the economy and everything. Stay home. You know, I'm building. I've had an interesting experience in this Museum of Clean. I've built this big national, and it's getting a lot of national press. But I'm building what they call a platinum or a LEED building. You know, where you save heat and save lights. For example, my lights on all the parking lot and all the paths and all the outside the building are 50,000 lights, and 55 of them, 50,000 hour lights, but it's 1,100 watts. Your toaster draws 1,100 watts. It's unbelievable what LED lighting, and you have to live a long time to get it back out. But, you know, we can design so much stuff to cut cost of electricity and cost of things down, drinking fountains instead of the cups and everything. And so we got whole tours that we give people, thermal mass and solar and everything. So anybody ever gets up to Pocatello, Idaho, I'm generally there every day. Drop in. If you say you heard us with Dennis Daly and Don Aslett, I'll give him a free book even.
And how about that? Don, we only have a few minutes remaining. I want to go through so many things and talk about the museum. But first of all, do you see much difference in laundry detergents? Are they all basically the same thing with just perfume and an extra price tag on them?
I see no difference. I traveled. I did a big national thing back in New York and traveled for Whisk, and I had all the stuff on that, how detergents work, and I had to explain it. And I did you know what you do when you do the TV shows and the radio shows on kind of, you're not advertising, but you're a spokesman. And I did the little things because they knew me. And I don't know, but I can't tell the difference between any of them. I just, you know, we have window cleaning. I say I use Joy, but Dawn and Ivory look exactly the same. And I said the reason we use Joy is because janitors can spell Joy, but we can't spell Dawn or Ivory when we buy it. But I don't see any difference, and things are so close. I made the statement once to a group of all-purpose cleaners. I could take Multi-Cleans, Portion Packs, Johnson's, Amway's, everybody. There's 30 companies, 40 companies make all-purpose cleaners and sell them nationally. I could line them up and take the color and the smell out, and I'll make you a bet the 30 owners could not pick theirs out from each other's. So that's kind of where I stand with it. I think there's so many chemical rules that rule us all. I think we're almost the same. I think you'd notice hardly any difference. Just like gasoline, I don't know the difference between Mobil or Shell.
I don't think there is any. I mean, they all have to meet some standards. I remember learning one time about a word called saponification. And it basically says that the reason just plain water won't clean is that water and oil don't mix, and a lot of dirt is akin to oil. But saponification creates a molecule that will attract water on one side and oil on the other and then flush it all away.
You're pretty good. That's saponification. That's just exactly what it is. It makes water wetter. You know,
yes.
People go to wash their car, and you'll see it bubble, and you'll see it scab up in little, it won't stick. It's, you know, and all of a sudden you put just a drop of detergent in there, a drop of soap, and all of a sudden it's just flat. You go across and it'll just lay flat. When you do dishes, you notice the same thing. It's made, and you know, it's got high pH factor and everything. So things are designed that way. The new Delymans, the orange salt type soaps and everything else, they've come up with new stuff that's so safe and so good that we just didn't have. You know, when I'm in the old days, I loved ammonia. I wanted to be baptized in ammonia. I thought ammonia, my hands were so shriveled up while I was a student cleaning with ammonia, couldn't even hardly tell what it was. But now they got all-purpose cleaners, and I use different ones. And I, as a professional cleaner of 60 years, I cannot tell the difference. And it's how you use it, and it's how you use it is more. And remember, a little does well. It's like baking soda. Everybody said a little does well. If a little does well, a lot does better. And you don't use a lot. You use stuff. Read the directions and use that. And buy concentrates. You know, people buy. There's an ounce of cleaner in these big jugs, and the rest is just water. And we ship it, and we throw away the plastic container. You can buy concentrates and use spray bottles, and those things will last 11 or 12 years. So, you know, use concentrates will really save the environment.
You mentioned ammonia. My first job as a kid was working in a grocery store. And this was when, and you probably know what's coming here, this is when everything came in glass bottles. I knocked over half a shelf of ammonia one day, and we had to evacuate the store. I never will forget that day. Talk about a pungent odor. Wow.
Yeah, that's bad. And bleach is not a cleaner. Everybody loves to bleach this. Bleach is an oxidizer. It's great in a wash because you rinse it back out of your clothes. If you bleach your toilets, you're gonna hurt them. It doesn't take the ring out of your toilet. It just makes it disappear. And I go in a place and I see mop strings all over the place under the cars and Cadillac dealerships, and I see mop strings, and I said, "You guys have been bleaching your mops, haven't you?" "How did you know, Don? You're so smart." I said, "Well, because they deteriorate. You hang them up bleached." So, and vinegar is not a cleaner. People like vinegar because it squeaks.
It smells nice.
But it squeaks, and car tires squeak out on the road, and it's not clean. There's a lot of old wives' tales out there that, but clean like the professionals. Learn how the professionals do it. Punch up my website sometime and look how we do it, and watch the professional at the hotel, motel. Let me tell you one last thing. It's really pertinent. The maids in motels can make up about, I think, 12 rooms a day is average. If all of us, when we stay in a motel, if we would wipe down the sink, pick the towels off the floor, pick the newspapers up, not tear the place apart, those maids could clean 20 things instead of the amount of, we'd save almost millions, not quite billions, but millions and millions of dollars of electricity, of cleaner, of labor, of water and everything. If all of us would take, before we check out of a motel room, if we would take even 3 minutes and just dust it. But when we leave that place slaughtered, you can wipe down your shower, you can wipe your sink out. But when they have to chisel later, when they have to chisel the toothpaste or the razor stuff and have to rescue the soap or round all the stuff off the floors, if we just take just a few minutes and police up our place, it'll make us feel better. But then the maids come in, they can service those rooms. They can do 20 instead of 14 or 12 or 14. The amount of cleaner they would save, an amount of water, an amount of labor, an amount of electricity would be millions of dollars a day. And I don't believe in adopt a highway. I think we need to adopt a habit. When you adopt a highway, you just reinforce bad behavior. People throw it out, the rednecks throw it out, we pick it up. But if you adopt a habit, then you change how people live and people clean better. Then you don't have to clean up after them. It's the greatest lesson in society that I am responsible for my own mess, and what mess I make, and spiritually, emotionally, physically, and everything else.
Don, are you and I the only frequent travelers who clean our rental car before we turn it in?
Probably, but see, the attitude, it's a rental, so it doesn't matter. The other day, somebody pulled up in front of my place and had a rental car. It was a real religious, good guy, and the cat was in his car. I said, "Get that cat off there." "Oh, it's okay, it's a rental." And, I have all friends in this town. I clean a lot of rentals, and the people say that 1 out of 100 will clean their rental and leave it good. Most people think because it's a rental or it's a government or it's corporate or it's a company, they can pay for it. That's why we have insurance, and that's why we put deposit. That's just a wrong attitude. We're responsible for our planet, and we're responsible to keep things green and to make things look good.
Well, aren't you a little tired of the people who, if you say, "Hey, don't throw that soft drink cup here in the Walmart parking lot," well, you know what the answer they give you is, "People are being paid to pick that up."
It's the janitor's job.
What a ridiculous answer.
Well, hey, I'll give you full. It's not a booger there. I mean, it's good. The next room is just slaughtered and everything. What's the stupid students? I said, the same students use both rooms, so what's the problem? It's the standard. One principal of the school say it's a janitor's job to clean. That school takes twice as much to clean. The other principal says, if I see a goober, if I see one hair, I'm going to punch your baby lights out. The kids keep that school perfectly clean. They're learning more than probably reading, writing, arithmetic. But it's that whole attitude. It's not the janitor's job to clean. It's the mess maker's job to clean. It's the janitor's job to maintain the building, replace the toilet paper, not rescue it out of the toilets and off the floor. And when we learn that, it's not mom and dad's job, it's not Obama's job, it's not the government's job, it's our job to clean up our own mess. When we learn that, we shouldn't have only one janitor in all the schools to do the restrooms. The rest of all schools should be cleaned by the students. I would guarantee you, if they learned that one thing when they graduate, I am responsible for my own life, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. That's better than knowing anything, even if they're dummies. If they know that, they're going to succeed in life and do well.
Don Aslett, thanks. I can't wait to get to Pocatello. I want to see your museum.
Well, people are coming from all over the world to see it. I even got written up in a London paper because I was a weirdo because I had hundreds of toilets. But it's really worth seeing. We're teaching the value of clean, and even though there's a lot of cleaning stuff, it's going to be it's open and it's functioning. And we had a band in there Saturday playing, and we got a beautiful art room, beautiful library, a whole room of just cleaning arts. It's worth coming.
Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for going back into the archives with me. I'm Dennis Daly. See you next time, right here on YouTube.